And now, let's get started with the first session of the day. In a world where change is constant and expectations are higher than ever, the role of a CEO is evolving faster than ever before. Our first session, Built to Lead, the 2026 CEO Playbook for Relentless Growth, will take a closer look at how leaders are navigating this shift, from scaling organizations to making high-stakes decisions. Today's CEOs are rewriting the rules and finding new ways to lead with clarity and purpose. To explore this further, we have the session's moderator, Richard Curran, CEO and President of Expo Conventions and Contractors, and our panelists, David Adams, founder and CEO of Business Freedom Group, Omar Rahmat, CEO of Office Technology Partners, LLC, and Erika A. Rosenthal, co-founder and managing partner of Veritac Group, and Dr. Ravi R. Iyer, founder, chairman, and ActivPower Group of companies and the Iyer Clinic. This stage is all yours, leaders. Come on up.
Okay. We have one more of our panelists that's getting mic'd up right now, but we'll just go ahead and begin our introductions. So, I'm Richard Curran, CEO of Expo Convention Contractors. We're a trade show and general contractor in the trade show industry, and what we do is we help companies and organizers build out trade shows and events, something like we're here, but all the way up to mega events with all the different logistics and exhibits and things. And also, I am the host of the Behind the Drapes podcast. It's an industry podcast where I interview thought leaders in our industry within the trade show sector.
Thank you, Richard. My name is Ravi Iyer. I'm a physician by trade, entrepreneur by passion. I run 3 companies, ActivPower group of companies, which is a global wellness manufacturer, supplements all over the world, and the Iyer Clinic, which is a top doctor practice in Northern Virginia. Been a former chairman of Reston Hospital, hospice director for 9 years, and my passion is empowering people to create possibilities that allow them to express their best self in their life. That's what I've been doing for 42 years, and that brings me here today.
Yep.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Erika Rosenthal, and I'm co-founder and managing partner for Veritac Group. We're a management consulting firm that helps mid-market companies and private equity investors with their growth challenges. So we work with a lot of different companies over different industries. My personal background is healthcare, medical device, and health IT. And CEO Playbook for Relentless Growth in 2026 is right down my alley of passions. And I'm looking forward to sharing some thoughts with this group and with you all today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Omar Rahmat, and I'm the CEO and founder of Office Technology Partners. We're a cost efficiency, cost reduction firm. We specialize in helping mid to large size businesses do an audit of their current expenses and find ways to improve those expenses and create areas of efficiency and increase their bottom line. We take great pride in helping people find vulnerabilities throughout their business and improve them to the point where they could take their business to the next level. I'm glad to be here, and thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Dave Adams, CEO and founder of the Business Freedom Group. We specialize in strategic planning and in implementing the plan for small and medium-sized businesses. I'm an engineer, so I'm very passionate about helping technical CEOs not get lost in the technology. It's really important that they have a purpose for it and they don't get so wrapped up in the solution that they forget where they're going. Dave Adams.
Thank you, everybody. Before jump into the questions, I just want to place this out there that to set this tone of our topic, every era of leadership has a defining challenge. Today, it's not just about disruption, but it's about the constant change. The question is, how do CEOs not just survive, but how do they scale through it? And that's our topic today, about how do we scale. So for the panel, I'm going to start with you, David. In one sentence, what is the single biggest leadership shift CEOs must make to win in 2026?
They really have to shift from command and control, where they focus on everything, to a human and purpose-driven organization. If they think as the founder they are going to be the embodiment of everything, they're wrong, and they will either learn that lesson easily or painfully.
Omar?
Thank you. I think one of the key roles of a leader is to expand on clarity of communication. I think that is a very, very important role to take in an organization. Communication is key, and it's first to make sure that the people who report to you have a clear understanding of your mission, and they have a clear understanding of how to execute that mission. So that is a key role that the leadership has to take in today's business climate.
Erika?
Yeah, I'd like to start just by asking a question in here before I give my one sentence. How many people have heard of the term acronym VUCA? Okay, so some people. So success today is going to be measured for a CEO in terms of how they lead through VUCA while being crystal clear to their teams. And that is unprecedented. And VUCA has been around since the 80s. Post-Cold War, it was a term when the two superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States were coming out. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And that is now being used to describe the world that we're in. And it does. So how do you lead when the ground is constantly shifting? And then be crystal clear to your team about where we're going. And that's what we're all going to unpack today.
Thank you. I want to segue off VUCA, which Erika just said. VUCA is the environment where we all find ourselves in. And the natural tendency for business founders and CEOs is to manage content, manage pricing structures, KPIs, contracts, and so on and so forth. And that is content. That's actually the least powerful aspect of your company. The one thing that handles VUCA, as Erika pointed out, is context. And when you have leaders, whether CEOs or founders, focusing their time in creating the context for their company, that's the single biggest step that they can take to creating an environment that handles the VUCA that Erika just pointed out. VUCA is the way the world is. It's not going to change. To manage that, you don't go into content, you go into context and work backwards from context.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Now, what does relentless growth actually mean today? Is it a revenue, efficiency, innovation, culture, or something completely different? Let's start with you, Erika.
Okay, I would say that it's about margin quality. It's not just top line growth, because if the unit economics of each additional customer is not getting better and better, then you're just delaying your demise, even if you have top line growth. It is finding more efficient, effective ways to serve your customers, and even choosing which customers you want to have in your portfolio, not trying to be all things to all people. And that means some tough choices along the way. And I would also say organizational capacity. In a world that's changing at this rate, at the pace that it is, then how much can your organization change? And a good way to ask yourself is, if I get 30% more business tomorrow, how will my team handle that? And if there's not a good answer for that, then there's some work to do.
Omar?
Thank you, Erika. Segueing off what Erika said, in my industry and what I do is I help people save money on their bottom line. I talk to a lot of leaders who sometimes have absolutely no idea what the components of each contract is within their organization. So the first and foremost thing that a leader must do is to find out the lowest common denominator of what these contracts are within their organization, whether it's finance, whether it's IT, whether it's operation, and find vulnerabilities in these contracts, recognize them, and then do something about them. Because if you don't know where you are, you can't begin to think where you can go. So first you have to determine where you are. And also, a lot of times you have to break something to the lowest common denominator. Confucius says that you can move a mountain one rock at a time. So if you have the ability to break a project or a contract or a large consortium into multiple little common denominators, then you have the ability to tackle them much more effectively.
So to continue growing, you want to make sure that you fix those small inefficiencies throughout.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that commercial that says, like, do you know how many apps that you have signed up for throughout
That's
that
right.
you're paying for monthly? You know, we as people don't even realize how many of those subscriptions that we have. So imagine how that scales into your entire business
Right.
for all of those little things that are just concurrent. So.
Exactly. That and what Confucius said, one rock at a time.
David, how about you on relentless growth?
Well, I think the choice of the word relentless shows a cultural problem in business overall. You know, change has always been there. When they were moving from manual payroll clerks to the first computers that they had to take a window out of the side of the building to bring it in with a crane, okay? We have constantly been changing for a long time. And you know, back to something Erika said about margin quality and all of that, I think what people really want is sustainable growth, not relentless growth that grinds you into the dust or grinds your staff down. You want sustainable growth that you can figure out how to keep going over and over, not just ride a particular wave. You want to keep your eye on the long term. So, you know, I can't compete with Confucius, but as an engineer, I believe in one rock at a time. And I think it's really important. You know, that's part of sustainability, is to have a path to follow growth that is sustainable.
Well, I'm going to stay with you on this one. So what's one of the biggest mistakes that a CEO is making right now that could hurt him over the next 5 years?
Prioritizing technology over people, and that was just said by an engineer.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, whatever the latest technical phase is, right now it's AI. That's fabulous. It's really a way you should free up your best people to do their best work, not look for replacing them, because your biggest asset is always your people. And so if you can get them to be more creative, go after a new part of the market, et cetera, because you've relieved them of some of the bureaucratic duty they had before, that's a great source of sustainable growth.
Omar, does Confucius have anything to say about CEO mistakes?
Yeah. Just like to follow what David said, as I said before, communication is key. A good leader communicates to his CFO, his CEO, his CIO, his VP of Finance, to make sure that they have clarity of mission and where they need to go. That's the only way that they can execute a good plan, is to have clarity. The role of a CEO is not to understand AI or how a certain thing, the nuts and bolts of something works. But the role of a CEO is to communicate clearly with people who do understand those things and make sure that those people are within their organization to kind of get the ship sailing.
I want to kick it over to Ravi here. If someone became a CEO tomorrow, what's the first capability they must master?
How many of you have noticed all these words behind us and all around? I wanted to bring your attention to that is that we all live through language. Language is how we know our reality around us. And the single biggest breakthrough a CEO can make is manifesting integrity as their word in their actions. Most people confuse integrity with honesty. Honesty is actually the kindergarten step of integrity. Integrity was defined by Harvard professor Michael Jensen and Werner Erhard as your word being whole and complete. And when you have to break it because of some circumstances, you automatically clean up the impact and then recommit. Every entrepreneur uses language differently than a common man. Common men use language to describe what is happening to them. He did this, she said that, I felt this. This is the common use of language. Entrepreneurs use language to create a word. They say, I see this, I will do this, and they keep repeating that internally until it manifests as concrete reality. They never give up the creation aspect of their word. This is the single greatest asset that a CEO or a founder can make, to create a context where their word remains inviolable under all circumstances of VUCA, as Erika pointed out. That creates an environment, a rock-solid rock of Gibraltar, where people can anchor their being. And Simon Sinek calls it the why. And different people use different words, but they're all speaking about the same thing. Your word as inviolable truth that you will hold on and renew and recreate under all circumstances to push the mission of your company forward.
Thank you. So you really tap into like the EQ side of being a CEO, where you have to really believe in that and really manifest that out to everybody else.
Yeah, see, all the middle management of a company will deal with the constructs, which are the methodologies and policies that translate context into content, which is the actual product or service that you bring out.
Yeah.
But
you need buy-in.
But the person at the helm creates the context. They remain a solid anchor for why the company exists. Why are we here? What kind of people are allowed to succeed here? Who do we reward and what do we not negotiate on or trade on when things get tough? I've been married 40 years. Everyone here have similar durations. The reason I choose my wife every minute. I choose her when she's yelling at me for not taking out the trash. I choose her when there's someone on the other side of the street who's looking better than her, who's not yelling at me. So integrity is a choice, and when your company employees stop choosing, they start quitting. You have to choose your boss, choose your job, choose why you exist all the time, especially when the going gets tough.
Thank you. Thank you for that follow-up. Omar, you got something to add to that?
How do you follow that?
Sorry to
Wife
set you up.
yells at you by taking a trash, and no. Yeah, I think in this business climate, especially now, I work with a lot of nonprofits and educational institutions. Funding is so limited for them. They have to have communication, strategy, and execution. I keep beating this dead horse to death. But I cannot emphasize that enough, that anytime there's a breakage in that link, the communication strategy and execution, things don't follow through. And it is so important, again, to make sure that you understand your current infrastructure, your expenses, your contracts, and you have an intimate understanding of these things before you set out to ask for new funding or ask for, hire new people, for example. It is so important to understand and make sure that this chain is not broken and is executed perfectly throughout the organization if you want to have a successful organization and be able to float in this tough business climate that we're in today.
Thank you. For the whole panel, what role should the CEO personally play in AI automation and the digital transformation that every company has to go through these days? Start with you, Erika.
Okay, yeah, we see this a lot. It seems like all the companies are deploying some form of AI, and yet Deloitte did a study, and it's like 20% of them are actually using it. And so I think we should be looking at this, but one of the skills that the CEO needs in this environment is radical clarity. And how do you do that in a VUCA environment when everything's shifting and shaping? It means you have to be a good communicator. And where that relates to AI is knowing the outcome you want to get before you decide on that technology, because added complexity kills scale. And so it needs to be a very conscientious decision on what AI to deploy, when it's ready, and how you're going to use it, and then start with pilots.
Yeah, it's because it's counterintuitive to think you're going to add technologies that are going to increase the productivity, but you're bogging down your team with new technologies that they're not even understanding yet, and so you're adding to a workload versus improving the processes.
Absolutely, and if you add AI is an accelerator, right? It amplifies your system, whatever you have going on. If your system's broken, you're going to amplify a big hot mess. So, avoid that. And so that radical clarity is really a challenge for CEOs today.
David, you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Building on that, I think culturally the CEO has the responsibility to be the risk taker in chief, to reward risk taking, and to make sure that his people are allowed to experiment versus forced to do something. Internal innovation should be celebrated. AI is just the latest in a long string of powerful tools, and your people should be rewarded for creative and intelligent use of tools.
Omar?
Thank you, David. There are two different camps that are growing in the world today. One is the doom and gloom T2 Terminator type camp that the world is over, they're coming for us, and Gen AI is going to take over. Supercomputers are going to control the world. And then the other camp is like, well, we could use what AI is giving us and implement it as a strategy to how we can make our lives better. So one of the things that the CEOs must do in today's business climate is to embrace AI rather than resist it, and make sure that they have people on board that are fully trained into inputting the right type of information into AI, because just like Erika alluded to, output equals input. So if you put something really bad in, then something bad is going to come out. So you have to be very, very careful as to how you input. I have these conversations quite a bit with my son. He's a junior in college, and sometimes he asks me to do some things for him because he goes, "Dad, you can just do it better." And I'm trying to teach him that It all depends on what you put into it. So the input that you want to put into AI could be like 2 pages long, and you might be seeking just one good paragraph out of it. That could be so much more meaningful than to put a paragraph in and get a page full out of it that's meaningless. So embrace AI. It's here. It's, we need to use it within our culture, within our business, within our industry, and get better along with it.
Yeah, an organization, we have a big design department, and a few years back, as we were really, really beginning to scale and grow and very fast, I continued to have the conversation with the designers about, hey, let's use it for concept. I mean, we have very technical things that we're building that are, construction grade, but said one of the most defeating things is to spend 8 hours on a drawing and present to a customer and them say, that's not what I was saying at all. Yeah. So how do we bridge that gap? And it took about 3 years and I think a lot of it had to do with reassurance that, like, we're not looking to replace you, we're looking to reduce your workload. Like, we had designers that were working, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, and it's like, help me help you. But no, we're the same thing where it's like, getting them involved to have them have buy-in was a big part of it too. Having them, creating a team to say, hey, what do you guys think the best tool that we should be using is, versus shoving it down their throat. So,
exactly.
One more thing, if I might add, is I started working with AI really before it was called AI, when we were dealing with extremely large data models on equipment data. Small things like offshore platforms and power plants and stuff like that, huge amounts of data. Well, now you've all heard the term large language modeling, and speaking to the clarity message that everybody's talking about, more language is not better. No. So large language modeling means it can drink in amazing amounts of data. Just make sure you are using it for clarity, not just to produce more language.
Ravi, you want to bring this home for us?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of going to, we're all speaking to the choir here. Everyone's saying the same thing. The CEO's job, to reiterate what David said earlier, is that you don't replace human beings with technology. Technology allows you to move faster, get more things done. It's like you're moving from a Volkswagen Jetta to a Lamborghini Huracan. You can go 0 to 110 very fast, take corners and all of that, but there has to be a driver. In companies, the team, the context that the CEO creates, the culture that is created out of that context, the collaboration that the top level works with and then translates it all the way down to the final echelon of the company, determines how tools and technology actually get used. Otherwise, it's just a lot of busy work, and there is really no progress happening.
Thank you. So we're going to shift the conversation into culture, and I want to start with David. What is one leadership behavior that keeps culture strong during rapid growth?
Transparency, and while it's more of a family therapy term, I would say vulnerability. That while the CEO needs to portray that they know that they are not, God's gift to the world, and that they make mistakes, right? Yeah. What a surprise. So that they free up the space. I talked about being risk taker in chief. Well, that also means admitting when you're wrong. And so modeling that behavior for your staff.
Erika, you want to add to that?
Okay, yeah, I really like that answer. I'm going to build upon David's. I think that over-communicating in this environment, if you're a leader, period, whether it's CEO, you lead a team, over-communication now and speaking clearly is the most important thing. If you can reward adaptability, because organizations now need to adapt. And so as a leader, you're separating. These are the things we know. These are the things that we don't know. And that consistent decision-making, when people understand what goes into you as a leader making a decision, it builds trust. And if they don't, they think either you can't make a decision because you're waiting for more information or whatever the reason, or they just don't see the tie and the consistent predictability of what that decision is. Culture breaks down. And so, communicating how the decision is made and what you need from your team, which is likely adaptability. We don't have all the answers. Things keep shifting. Here's what we know. Here's what we don't know.
Thank you. Now I have a question for the whole panel again. How do you balance being a visionary versus operational? And where should the CEO really be spending their time?
I can take that. I was going to loop back to what I started off with. CEOs are always struggling between how to be visionary and how to manage the operation. But the real power of a CEO or a founder is creating the condition where vision actually gets translated. In a very, very well-run company, thousands of decisions can be made without the CEO engaging if he has created a team that is able to execute upon the vision that he articulates. So the number one focus of a CEO is always bringing the why of the company. Why are we here? What are we serving? Who do we reward? Out up front and central. And it's always visible. It's always in everyone's mind, so that when a new challenge or a new circumstance comes before them, they don't have to wonder what they have to do. They just have to go back to their why and execute from there. We did this in the pandemic. In the pandemic, 90% of clinics in Northern Virginia shut their doors. Our clinic opened doors. We expanded from 3,000 square foot office to a 12,000 square foot parking lot. Over 2 years, we ended up testing 100,000 patients for COVID, of which 10% of whom were positive. We treated over 10,000 patients, and not one of us fell ill. And that came out of a why that I articulated, that we are each one of us is our brother's keeper. We are all for one, one for all, and we will take care of everyone in our team and everyone who comes to our door. No questions asked. So I just brought that as an example of we didn't worry about how to clean surfaces or how to protect. Once we articulated that everyone is going to take care of everyone, everyone did whatever was necessary to execute on that vision.
I do. I love that answer. I think that the question, to me, is a bit of a false dichotomy, because I think you have to have both in your organization. As a CEO, you've got to have the vision and the purpose, but you also have to have the systems and the processes. And if you don't have a strong number two in place who's going to be looking at the operations, you at least have to know the right questions to ask. And a good CEO toggles between both. You're looking at the next 5 years, the next 10 years with the vision. But if you're not an operator, visionaries can neglect the machine, and operators can neglect the purpose. So pulling that together, however you do that in the organization, is vitally important.
Thank you. Well said, Erika. One of the advantages of going last is you get to see what everybody's going to say. But The disadvantage is that it's like battleship, they sink all your boats and then you have nothing to say after they've said everything that needed to be said that you were going to say. So I'm going to try to expand on what David, Erika, Dr. Ravi, everybody's saying. And that is that I think we're all talking the same language about a good leader will create an environment of trust and communication and transparency. And when you have that within your people, within your company, within your organization, then things get done. I deal with so many organizations that the CFO doesn't communicate with the CIO doesn't communicate with the CEO. Finance has no idea what operations is going through. Operation has no idea what facility is going through. And things are crisscrossing, bills are getting paid, money is being dumped in the water on a daily basis. If the environment is built on trust and humility and respect and getting to know one another and open communication, then everybody communicates, the dots are being connected, and things get done. So a great sign of a good organization is when a good leader brings all the troops together and communicates with everybody and creates an environment of transparency and trust. So to answer your question, Rich, as a good leader, be visionary or operational, a good leader actually connects the two.
Okay. Well, that's what I was originally said was, it's not one or the other, but it's how do you balance it?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Want to add to that, David?
Sure. When I was thinking about the topic before we got here, the words general and prophet came to mind rather than operator and visionary. And I've been both. And I think a key thing for all of you is to learn how to take care of yourself so you don't slide all the way into one and all the way into the other. I'll just tell a little story. A gentleman who ran an instrumentation company outside Cincinnati, he actually had two different offices in the building. And he was chairman and president was the terms he used. And somebody would come see him when he was in the president office, and he would say, that's really a topic for the chairman. Come see me on Wednesday. And it was a little goofy until people realized that he was just taking care of himself that way, and that's the way he could manage that range. And after a few years of that, it was all natural, it was cultural, and they knew to not rush into the chairman's office with something that was a tactical firefighting issue. Right? They knew to bring strategic, and he had listening for both. Take care of yourself in that range.
All right, so if we were going to write this playbook for the 2026, for a CEO to win, what is the first three rules? So Ravi, you want to start this off? 3 rules for the 2026
3
playbook.
rules. It's actually surprisingly simple. Design context before strategy. And I've beaten this horse to death, so I won't go into that. Everyone should know that by now. Second is use integrity as an operational principle rather than a moral principle. People are always confusing their word with looking good, and therefore they protect their image rather than their word. But if you set up, like in my clinic, and as also in ActivPower, we have the same principle is that no one is ever late. Because everyone is always late because. And they think that somehow being late because you were stuck behind a school bus is somehow operationally better than being late because just you didn't care to be on time. Yeah. For my business, it's operationally the same. The impact is the same. The breakdown is the same. So all we do is, if you're late, hey, I'm late. I said I will be here at 9 o'clock. It's 9:30. Is there something that I can do to clean up the impact of my being late? And then I restore my word. I won't be late anymore. That's it. Or if you can't make that promise anymore, then you say, okay, you know what? I miscalculated. That old promise, I don't have the resources to execute on that. This is a new promise. This is what I can do. And then you see whether that's workable. So integrity is about maximum workability, about keeping the system whole. And the last thing is create an environment that puts what you do as more important than what it means for you. commitment to a purpose larger than yourself. If you have these three things, your playbook always wins.
Like it. Erika, what are your 3 rules for the playbook?
Oh my gosh, I don't want to follow Dr. Ravi. That was beautifully said. I'm going to keep it brief. 3 rules. Clarity is exponential. And the clearer your priorities, the faster your organization will follow. And, conversely said, ambiguity is the most expensive form of overhead. And that is so hard in this environment. I think it's harder than ever. Number 2, build systems and not individual heroics. A growth system, if you have a few key people who are carrying the load within the organization, you're at risk. You're going to either burn them out, or if something happens, you're risking your business. So think about systems that can support the efforts and not be dependent on individual heroics. And number 3, protect your rate of learning. If you're only looking inside the organization and not at what's happening in the market, and this is where we often see a big gap. We work with a lot of CEOs that have stalled in growth. That's often when we come in. And it's because they're not paying enough attention to market signals. And we have to adapt to that. So make sure you're carving the time out to understand what is shifting in the marketplace, to combine that with what's going on inside the organization.
Thank you.
Well said, Erika. Yeah, kind of similar messages. I mean, the number 1 rule would be to create an environment of trust and clarity and communication. Very, very important. Make sure that everybody knows what the mission is, how to achieve it, and there's a clear path to it, which is by dividing everything to the lowest common denominator. Unless you're able to divide everything to the lowest common denominator, I call it widgets, you're not able to execute on it. And then the second thing, which is really, really important, and sometimes it's overlooked, is empowerment. You have to empower people to do things, give them, the authority to sign agreements or pull triggers on things. And then that's really, really important on a company's mission and objective, to make sure that people have clarity of vision, know how to execute it, and they're empowered to do so. And that there's the environment of trust and communication built. Really, really important. And last, since these guys sunk all my boats, dance like it's 1999.
Bring it home, David.
Well, with the 3 rules paradigm, I'm tempted to make the joke about, the 3 rules of real estate: location, location, location. And so the L word I'd like to toss out here is listening, whether it's internal or external. And so for me, it's listening, processes, and people. You take care of those 3, it's all going to be great.
Thank you. And our last question. What is one action the CEOs in this room should take in the next 90 days that will accelerate their growth? I'll start with you, Omar.
I would definitely look into our current expenditure, contracts, infrastructure, because that's where a lot of money is wasted. If we can tighten the ropes and make sure that we understand from an operation standpoint, from a financial standpoint, and from a facility standpoint, that we have a good handle on these expenses and contracts, that will be the foundation that we can build on and grow from there.
Erika, what's the one thing in the next 90 days they should focus on?
I would say throughput, which is anybody that went to business school had to read the old book, The Goal. And it is where in your organization are there bottlenecks that if we add more customers today, it's going to slow it down or it's going to cost a lot. And have your team solve for those problems, because it's all about throughput and scale. And everybody is looking for how can we scale this and grow it larger without crippling the organization.
Bottlenecks identifying bottlenecks is definitely important. I heard this one story about this CEO that he had a few thousand employees, but he would just walk his floor every day to find 3 bottlenecks that he could address. Every single day, he wanted to find them, and that's all he did every day. That was his main focus every day. Obviously, answering higher level questions too, but like every day he wanted to find 3 bottlenecks. So that was a great one. David?
So, as a process engineer, I love the throughput, the goal focus, but I would also add customer intimacy. Go find those throughput problems at your customer and solve those. That will bring you repeat and growing business.
Ravi, you want to take this home?
Yeah. Make sure the customer wins all the time. You're here for a purpose, and that is to make somebody's life better. Whether it is a business or whether it's in healthcare, people only come because something has happened in their life that does not allow them to live life the way they want to. And that's what we all do. Whether you're diagnosing something or solving a problem, that's what you do. You enable people's life to work. So make it work. And don't partition things.
Great. So we went through our playbook today, in and out of many different topics, but I just want to close with saying growth doesn't create strength in a company, it reveals the strengths. And the CEOs who are going to win in 2026, they're not just building strategy, they're building systems that can actually scale through it. So thank you so much to my panel. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.